Alright, this is game 2 of match 2. I'm playing Gabe on the right side of the screen. We've got HP on the left.
You know, I haven't actually recorded my own games yet. Last time I was TOing, I wasn't playing, so I was just recording. So, yeah, we'll see.
And this game is, as you could probably tell from the timeline on YouTube there, it's quite long. This was definitely an unusual game. It doesn't usually take this long for a game to resolve one way or another. But this one played out a little strangely. So, the Corp, it looks like he has Jackson in hand. He has a snare, so that's something that is a little bit unusual for HP. And some ice. Alright, so I'm going to save the surprise for what that card he just installed is, but that'll come back into play later. And in hindsight, well, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything else about it. So we left R&D open, which, you know, is a little surprising. So, I mean, that's kind of signaling, especially when he had the ice, that he's trying to rush an agenda out. But at the same time, against Criminal, I couldn't quite tell what that was. Against Criminal, you usually don't want to try this because they'll inside job over the ice and steal whatever agenda. So I'm kind of thinking about that kind of stuff when I see this, and I'm thinking, you know, Jorge, his name's Jorge, who I'm playing. He's a pretty good player. I've seen him around, and he's probably not going to be putting an agenda there. So that's kind of, I don't think I have an inside job either, but so I'm just sensing that that's probably not. And so he's deciding if he wants to trigger the snare. Which, again, this is interesting because the decision here is like he wouldn't have enough to score the agenda next turn, probably. Looks like he's down to 2 money. So that might be why he wouldn't trigger the snare there. So that makes me suspicious. Gets me thinking. So I pick up a tag from the snare. When I see snare again, like in an HP deck, it has me worried. So this is where I decide to clear it, which, I don't know, that was a tough decision. I don't know if that was the right decision, but just based on what little I'd seen, I kind of decided that was the safe way to play it. So yeah, he wouldn't be, you know, he's not able to score if that is an agenda. He's not able to score it now. And he is kind of signaling that it might be, just through his play. So he gets up to credits. So I think he's up to 4 credits now, which is an important number because I know he has snares. So when I see him trying to, like, spending a lot of effort to get up to 4, yeah, it gets suspicious. Like, does he have another? I could sneak door into his hand, but is he holding on to a snare? He doesn't have that many cards in hand. And even running on top of R&D, you know, you still have a good chance. So now I think I'm up to 3 cards. So now a run is safe, at least from a surprise snare.
I'll run.
So I'm going into R&D straight through, and the reason for doing this when you have Sneak Door is A, to try and get them to spend some money. He doesn't have that much money, so I want him to spend some of that money so I don't have a snare. And just to know what the ice is, because later on you're going to want to account siphon. So you want them to res it so you know what it is. Because otherwise, if I really just wanted to get into HQ, then I'd use Sneak Door. But he doesn't res the ice and I get in. Which, you know, there's any number of reasons why he doesn't res that ice. So I'm trying to siphon here. This is really trying to get him to res that ice. And he does. So he spends most of his money to res Eli, which I bounce off of. Eli is not a great piece of ice to have over HQ like that against Gabe, because even if he runs in and clicks, it's not, you know, you don't want to be doing that as Gabe, but it's still somewhat efficient because you're getting your 2 money. And so it's not a horrible play, especially when you're thinking they might be holding on to some agendas. But, you know, he didn't start with that much ice, so you got to do what you got to do. Alright, so I drew a card. Can't quite see what it is.
Everything's whatever you want it to be. So then my turn? Yep. Then should I draw?
Yeah, I'm really worried about snares, and also he's installing some remotes. He's not. Yeah, he still wouldn't have been able to score that agenda. So I mean, it's such a weird situation. That could still be an agenda behind that ice. And that card face down on the far end on the top, I'm just worried it could be a snare. Everything's a snare basically. So I'm checking out the top R&D. He reses Fenris, so he spends 4 money. Okay, so now it's really starting to make sense, the snare play. It looks like it might be some sort of flatline deck. See, I did have a inside job in hand, so I could have gotten through that server.
Sneak door.
In hindsight, I should have run, because he's out of money, I should have run on those remotes. But I wanted HQ access, I wanted my money. Yeah, I should run on remote here. Run on a remote. I don't remember what I do. But now is a great time to check the remotes.
Okay.
He has a paper wall there. Which is really frustrating. I'm commanding myself in this commentary because I don't quite remember every play that I do here. Alright, so he gets up to 3, installs to protect the sneak door. That's motivating me to get into HQ for sure.
Second click.
But yeah, when you're
dirty laundry here.
Yeah, so this is pretty economical. So I dirty laundry to.
Go here.
I'm just saying. I'm just reminding you that it's.
He's telling me I should go up to that remote server on top.
Oh, no, I want to get an HQ. Okay. So that was all my clicks. This will happen in a little bit.
See, I'm gonna spend 3 clicks to get in. I see an access, and I end up getting a total of 5 money. 2 money from Gabe and then 3 from the dirty laundry. So that's pretty good. Give me a little bit of burst of econ there.
Okay, I'm gonna triple advance.
Oh, so it was an agenda. Oh, that paper wall. That is frustrating. Yeah, that thing was on the table for, I don't know, three or 4 turns? And he has another paper wall. So that's working out pretty well for him over there. So I really need to get my corroder here. That would open things up again for me.
Oh, you know what? I do have to discard because. Yeah, bring out that.
The good thing is his ice are spread pretty thin, but he hasn't invested too much into them. At the same time, he hasn't had a huge amount of economy yet. So at this point in the game, I think I feel like I have the advantage. But I also have a brain damage, so my brain's not working quite well. Alright. So he installed another something behind the paper wall. And you see Fenris, HB, you gotta be thinking about traps. I don't know, I'm probably giving too much away for people who know the card pool really well. But I wasn't quite thinking entirely straight in relation to that server later. Alright, so I'm still looking for answers here. Still trying to find a corroder. Okay, no, see, that was a misplay. I was gonna parasite the paper wall, but it's 1 strength, so the parasite does not kill. I don't have any data sucker. So he allowed me to take that back. That was just a total misplay. I could have still kept it on there, but I really wanted to get to that agenda, so putting the parasite on the paper wall in that case is not a smart play. It's only going to work if I could get through it right then and there. See, he doesn't really care about the paper wall after he scores that another agenda. It's, you know, if it helps him score 2 agendas, that's paper wall has done more than its fair share of work. Alright, so I get it going on the Fenris. That's putting pressure on him to defend up R&D. Spend another one of his ice, spend more of his credits to defend R&D, which isn't even really my primary concern as Gabe. Although if I could open up R&D, I do have an indexing in the deck. Not sure if I have it in hand, but that is a solid surprise. Alright, so he installs another remote. He's getting his HB engineering the money for that. engineering the money, engineering the installs. Alright, Fenris is one from dead. He just put down a bunch of remote servers. Now there's 4 remote servers down. And I think at this point in the game is when I start getting really worried about dedicated response teams. I didn't quite count up his influence, but yeah, when you're seeing snares, I couldn't quite pin this deck down. Like, I didn't know what was going on. And so I just you start to think about the extents. Like, what is the worst case scenario here? And I was just sort of worrying about dedicated response teams. But he has 4 credits, so... Alright, so he was hiding an agenda there. I got a false lead. That's a 1-point agenda. And that makes sense in this sort of deck as well, because if he's gonna flatline like that's just trying to figure out what the finisher is. Like, it falsely you usually see in like a Scorched Earth, or maybe with some neural EMPs, but there's a lot of influence going around here. So I think I decided to take a risk on that first one, but I didn't want to risk running into another snare on those other remotes. And you know, you take an agenda, you figure he's not going to drop 2 agendas down. Alright, so I got rid of the Fenris. So I put my bad publicity up with my credits. You could see it under the bronze one there. So I never forget to use it. Because before I did that, I used to put it on the character ID, like where the brain damage is on Gabe, and I would forget to use it quite often. So that's a little pro tip.
Yeah, we just have this landing pad. We got some stairs down to this.
Alright, drawing up some cards. I think I'm still looking for that corroder.
That's why I've got this token set.
And he did not advance any agendas on the last turn, which I believe he could have done. So I'm pretty certain that... I couldn't quite see what that was. Pretty certain that the other remotes there are not agendas. But I was worried about... Alright, Force and Res. I was worried about dedicated response teams. Like, that was going through my head for a large portion of this game. Dedicated response teams, for those that don't know, are an asset you can res, and if the runner is tagged, they at the end of a run they will do 2 meat damage. And as you know, as Gabe this deck, I often will pick up tags, so dedicated response teams are really bad. You gotta clean them up, especially with snares going around. If he has a snare in HQ, he will res dedicated response teams, and you'll hit that snare and you will die from meat and net damage. So he's just getting some money this turn. He had an ice over R&D, but I forged it and he decided to trash it, and now he has a new ice over R&D. So I have that fairy out, so I'm not too worried about things like Fenris. So that is a... Oh, I can't read. What is that one called? I know this one. This is a Ichi 2.0, I think? Basically, that's a 2.0 buy rate, so you got to spend 2 clicks to break subs. I'm spending my last 2 clicks to break the subs. I can't... Yeah, so that was an Adonis campaign, so I used my bad pub and 2 money to trash it. Which is good, because he doesn't have that much money, and I'm sure he'd like Adonis campaign. Say that Ichi's a pretty good piece of ice. I think it's a code gate, and so that's hard for me to deal with in this deck, because my only code gate breaker is Yogg. So that kind of takes indexing off the table. But he did spend 5 money on it, and it didn't really harm me, so that's okay. He's really icing up R&D. This kind of sends me a message that he doesn't have agendas in HQ. Because I can get into HQ. I could click through Eli. So if he was worried about HQ, he'd probably be icing up Eli. So I've been doing a lot of drawing. Finally, okay, I get a special order, so I can go search my deck for the corroder. It looks like indexing was actually on the bottom there. Okay, so there's the corroder, installing that. It's always fun to, when you're special ordering or doing any sort of search tutor effect, to see where the card was, so you can see what might have been. Alright, so sneak door in, I spend my bad pub to kill the paper wall.
against parasites. Yeah, sure. So I think it has the most relevant.
I always ask people if they want to cut it. I didn't play a lot of card games before this. I wasn't into Magic, so it always seems unusual to me how people are so paranoid about. I see the Nero Katana again. I think I saw the Nero Katana before, so yeah, that makes the false lead all make sense. So he's trying to get brain damage, trying to hit a snare, and then he's going to false lead, and then he's going to follow up with a Neural EMP to kill you. I think it's the general idea behind the deck. I got too stuck up on the dedicated response teams. Although I guess I'm not at that stage in the game, because I remember I started running on those remotes once I was... But then you're worried about the snares as well.
Second click is Snake Door.
So you can see that I got the silencer on. Okay, he's got another Fenris. So I definitely want to avoid brain damage at this point. So I spend the fairy, breaks it for free. Give me some money, and now I have 2 bad pub. So that part's good. Still only have 1 agenda point, but he only has the Vitruvius, so we're both kind of looking for the agendas and trying to optimize our board state.
And then the other thing is lots of people I think are going to be running Quandary.
Silencer, I was really happy with this this tournament. I need to play around with the deck some more, but so there's the dagger. That I think I just drew into earlier in the game. Might have had it for a while, but you don't really want to play it until you have at least a silencer out. But now I could run pretty safely anywhere. You know, the only thing I really have to worry about is, so I'm sneaking in with the silencer, dagger, gets me in with the bad pub. So I'm getting HQ accesses for free, which is exactly what you want. Yeah, so silencer dagger is, I don't know, it worked out really well, I thought. It just kind of, you use your fairies to cover the early game, and then you need to get 1 silencer and 1 dagger, and then once you have that going, the only thing you really worry about is something like Archer. And, you know, you could, like, I definitely wasn't feeling Archer in this deck here. He might have had it as a one-of, but his influence seemed to be all spent on damage cards primarily. I wasn't seeing too much program trashing, especially for HB, which has a lot of program trashing. And then I have 3 silencers in deck, so eventually I'll draw into another silencer, and then you're safe from anything, and you can make 2 sentry runs a turn. It does limit the amount of running you could do, but it makes the running so efficient. It's just, you know, any 1 sentry ice is just irrelevant, basically.
You just drop 5.
Alright, so getting into HQ. I think I'm paying... Oh yeah, that was a siphon. So I just took a bunch of his money. Apparently he wasn't able to res anything, so that tells me those, you know, those remotes weren't anything that he would want to res in that case. But he still has money left. He looks like he has like 3 or 4 money left over, so yeah, he wouldn't want to res on the siphon there. A lot of times you res when you're siphon just because... Yeah, a lot of times you res on a siphon just to spend some of your money so the runner doesn't get it. But if the runner's going to get 5 money no matter what, there's not really a good reason to do that. So now I have the tags. I think, okay, I keep saying this, but I think this was the point when I finally started to think about dedicated response teams. Because I realized I can't really... I couldn't remember at the tournament. I can't remember now how much dedicated response team is to res, but I can't really afford to run anywhere until I'm sure he can't dedicate response team me.
Yeah, it's like that. It's fine. If you have like the multi-upgrades.
Alright, so I was able to shut down that Ichi. He could res it again, but as long as I go in there with 2 clicks, I'm not too worried about that. I mean, I'm fine with him spending 5 money to res it. He still didn't have much of an economy, even with all his remotes. So he installs over the Fenris. He sees I could get through the Fenris for free, so he has to... In a lot of cases, you probably just uninstall the Fenris there, but... you know, he might be thinking he could trash my programs. The other thing about Silencer, I might be repeating myself at this point, I can't remember what I said in the last video, but it protects against power shutdown. So if you have only one of your breakers, if one of each of my breakers in this deck, I do have actually a ninja in addition to the dagger, but I'm probably going to replace that with a fem. But when you have one of each of your breakers, the power shutdown is a serious threat. So there's data suckers and silencers in this deck now to protect against that.
So I'll pay 2.
So Dirty Laundering.
Another 2. That'll give me back. Does that make sense? Through here.
So Dirty Laundry through Eli. I pay total 4 to get through Eli, so it's only 2 with the bad pub. I pay 2 for the Dirty Laundry. I get 2 back from Gabe, and then 5 will come back on the Dirty Laundry. A lot of transactions going on here. So I see another paper wall. Don't care about that at this point. So building up a nice little stash of money. Oh yeah, I cleared the tags because I was super worried about dedicated response teams. Which I should have just run on those remotes a lot sooner to check them. Because ideally I don't want to clear those tags. But then running on a server you don't really care about is, that could be a snare or something, is arguably worse than clearing tags. So I felt like that was the right decision at the time. Now he's got some money. I think he has 9 money now. 9 or 10. Jorge was asking if I would put overlays on the screen so everyone could see how many credits and what clicks for people are on and all that. And I'd love to do that, but that would take a lot of effort, and I don't have necessary skills here. Alright, so I got another silencer, which allows me to run, not worry about something like Archer. It's just good to have, too. Makes things cheaper. So this is the case where I have 2 clicks left over. Not worried about the first piece of ice. Ooh, so that's a Heimdall 2, which I believe is a Sentry. So I could get through that for pretty cheap. So I silence up to its strength. It's 5 strength, and I spend bad publicity and 1 money to get through. So that really only cost me, a Heimdall 2 only cost me 1 money to get through, which is pretty ridiculous. And that is because of the bad. If it wasn't for the bad pub, it would cost me 3 to get through, which is still really cheap. He spent 8 to res that, and now he can't afford to res the Ichi. Heimdall is a trashing thing, so that makes the install over Fenris make more sense. He might have been hoping to get me with that Heimdall. Alright, so this is when I started to go check the remotes. So he had a Jackson Howard down. It's interesting that he had it down for so long without using it.
Alright, let's see what we got.
So let's get a snare back and some money.
There's only 1 face down, though.
Yeah. There's only 1 face down.
Wow. Man, that could be really good.
And with the last click, I guess it might be the 3rd click here. Yeah, silence, run, 3rd click, draw. Alright, well I guess that was the 4th click. I'm not tracking it right here in commentary. See, I want to be good at doing the overlays if I can't even track things when I'm just watching the game here. Alright, so he still has 3 remotes down. Every remote I check that's not a dedicated response team worries me less. It's such a stupid concern. But maybe maybe dedicated response team gets me in this game. Who knows? Alright, so this is weird. This is, I think he had 3 credits, so he could have scored whatever that was. I think that whatever's there was installed for a long time. So what could this possibly be at the bottom of that server? I could probably get in there, right? The only thing that would really stop me is a code gate. I have plenty of money. So why would he have an agenda down there if I could? So there's some more dedicated response team checks. He's not resing the Adonis because he didn't have the ice to defend it, but it's only 1 for me to trash, so I might as well do it now in the run I already making rather than wait for him to get an ice, where it'd be a pain in the ass later. Down to 2 remotes.
3rd click I'll run. So this costs me a total of 4, 2, and I get 2 back.
So now it's a neutral to run into HQ. It costs 4 to get through.
Yeah, so 3rd click is here.
4 to get through, but I get 2 back from Gabe, and I have 2 bad pups, so I'm getting into HQ for free now. It's exactly the type of thing you want as Gabe. Just can't find the agendas.
Final click.
Okay.
Alright. Yeah, I think this is my dedicated response team paranoia still. I'm thinking he's defending the dedicated response team with a bunch of ice. You know, that's maybe his only dedicated response team down. And I'm thinking that's a lot of his plan. So he just installs advances. So that's worrisome because of Cerebral Overrider. So this is my common strategy for when there's a trap. I siphon their money away so they can't trigger the trap. So I'm getting in there for free. Seeing he has an opportunity to res some stuff with that money. But he decides not to, so I take away his money. And I get... Oh yeah, I guess he had 4. Oh, I took the Gabe money, didn't I? I wasn't supposed to do that because I accounted for that. That was a big mistake. Alright, that was an agenda though. I was not expecting that. I was totally expecting a trap. Alright, so that was definitely a misplay. I took the Gabe money when I had already accounted for it when getting through the Eli. Yeah, I think people tend to make a lot of mistakes when they're playing and just don't notice them. But now watching this video,
First click.
But I'm sure there were other people that had slight advantages over me throughout the day. So in the end, it all evens out. But it didn't even out for Jorge here. Alright, so I'm Sneak Dorn, trying to get him to spend money basically. And I could get in cheaper that way than going through the Eli. So just getting a little more money there. Still no Desperado. Be nice to have in this game with all these runs. So another Don's campaign. I was able to trash it for 1 again. Now just checking all the servers. So all these remotes I'm worried about dedicated response team, and they're just not even there. Probably. Maybe it's there. Maybe it's that last card in that remote.
Okay, cool.
Because why would he defend an agenda there for so long? Alright, here we go. Going to kill that, what I'm sure is a dedicated response team. And that last one must be the dedicated response team. So paranoia gets to you. I am tagged though, but if I kill the dedicated response team while I'm tagged, he won't trigger. So he's not rezzing, and he hits me with the Edge of World. He has exactly 3 money, so I take 2 more brain damage.
2 brain damage. Oh, you hit Edge of World!
I did.
And I think I hope I have 1 more click left. It looks like I have 1 card in hand, so that may have been my last click. Which is bad, because, you know, he has a Neural EMP in hand, so he might have 2 Neural EMPs in hand, but he doesn't have any money. So he can only trigger 1 Neural EMP, so I'm safe there. Trying to look at his hand, I don't think he has 2 Neural EMPs. Okay, so he has another 2. This is bad. He has 3 money. He has an agenda, and I could totally get to that agenda. It probably wouldn't be that hard. But it might not be. It might be another Edge of World, and then I'll have 5 brain damage, and I can't do that because he has Neural EMP.
How many cards in hand? You got 2?
Just 2.
So I just can't run there until he has less than 3 money. So that's how his deck is working now. It's putting me against the wall here. I could totally run in that server and access whatever it is, but I can't at the same time. And I have to discard down to 2 cards at the end of my turn now. I really can't afford another brain damage.
I will dirty laundry here. So this is a silencer.
So I'm dirty laundering R&D. I'm just desperately trying to find these agendas.
That's trashed.
All right.
You only have 3 money.
So yeah, luckily I did do that right. I don't think I would have done that. That would have been a mistake if I ran in there when he had more than 3 money. The 3 and 4 is such an important number in this game in particular. 3 for the Edge of World and 4 for Snare. So I am paying attention to that. while tracking all this other information, desperately looking for agendas. So that might be all the snares now. Although he did, no, he's been putting them back in with those Jackson Howards. 2 of them are out.
So final click, I'll silence. I will pay 1 real money.
It's only cost me 1 to get in there, so that's looks like that was an Enigma there. Enigma would make me sad. I feel like in this game my yaw got trashed, so he does steal the. He gets a false lead. That's good. In that, you know, it's only 1 point. It's bad in that I can't make any mistakes here. So I got some free accesses here because he doesn't have any money. So free in the sense that yeah, okay, I did that right at least. I didn't use the bad pub to trash it. All right, going in again.
I'll trash it. So
And there's another Adonis campaign. Just, I don't know. I feel like I've trashed like 4 Adonis campaigns so far in this game.
okay.
Jackson Howard. Just running as much as I can here, just trying to exploit this point in the game when he doesn't have any money. Trying to disable all of his traps that he might have.
Neutralizes.
And I'm getting into HQ for free.
Okay.
See the Enigma. Yeah, I think the Enigma's really worrying me. I'm pretty sure the Yogg is in trash. And I don't have another way to deal with. I have, I think, 1 more Parasite. And then, yeah, but otherwise the Enigma would be a huge problem. So just hopefully he doesn't catch on to that. Couldn't quite see what that was, but it might have been the Enigma again. Alright, so I think that was the Enigma he just installed over that. So he might have caught on to my weakness. I should be at 2 cards right now, I believe I am. So I'm just taking some credits.
And I'll take agenda.
Okay. First click, I'll draw.
Resources.
Draw a card.
I'll go R&D.
So silencers.
So I'll do this.
So he can't erase the Enigma. So I still get some R&D accesses. So there's the Cerebral Overrider. Got 1 of them. That's great. So I am getting rid of a lot of the traps. I just can't find the agendas.
I will run there again. That. And actually this time I've been... So I'm gonna...
So I'm trying to consider if I can just... if I could just out-trace the traits. It's like a trace 1, I think. Might be a trace 3. So I was trying to figure out if there was some in there. No, just... so there's a Handed Terror. So he has a lot of traps, a lot of upgrades in this deck, and he just... I guess he doesn't have a lot of econ is basically the trap. Because he seems to have enough ice. You know, he's been trashing a lot of ice, and I've been trashing ice, and... So still seeing one of those paper walls. Man, Desperado early in this game would have been so much money. Been doing so much running. I need to... I should have counted up the... Maybe someone that's watching the video can count up all the accesses. I should have asked at the start. But I'm curious how many accesses there were in this game. Because it felt like there was like 30 accesses. I'm sure it was something more like, I don't know, 18. Someone said that you have to get like 20 accesses on average to win as a runner. Card accesses, that would be, so counting things like R&D interface. I don't know if that's true though. So I'm still getting in real cheap. So this was the mistake. I ran in, he has 4 money, I only 2 cards in hand. That's just where I was kind of in the flow of things. Another Edge of World there, just no agendas. Yeah, the agendas just weren't there. I just kind of got in the flow of things and wasn't really thinking about his credit count at that point. There's 3 or 4 agendas there at the bottom. And there just weren't any near the top. So that was a little bit of bad luck there. I felt I played pretty well. I got a lot of accesses. I was maintaining my economy. I was keeping his econ low. But at the same time, just he kind of was able to exploit a moment of weakness there when I wasn't fully thinking things through. Just doing too much math in my head there with the runs. So he ended up getting me. I think, I don't know, I feel like I should have won that game, but I didn't. I felt like the things were going in my favor, except for the cards I was actually accessing. So that's an interesting HP deck. It's different from a lot of HP decks I've seen before. Definitely has a lot of brain damage. just has a lot of traps, a lot of assets and upgrades, and I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's lacking ice though. It's interesting. I'm curious to, maybe if Jorge's listening to this, he could post the deck list. Curious to see the distribution of things. All right, thanks for watching.